Welcome to the MassAve4 Harvard Square Area Informational Project video. This video will focus on Massachusetts Avenue between Harvard Street and Garden Street. The MassAve4 project consists of 4 segments of Mass Ave where installing separated bike lanes is challenging due to complicating factors such as major bus stops or overhead wires that power trolley buses. This video will share where we are in the process of implementing 2 of the 4 segments, as well as the project history in relation to the City Cycling Safety Ordinance. We will review the existing conditions of this area of Mass Ave and design considerations for people biking, taking transit, walking, and driving. Next, the draft concept for Mass Ave between Harvard Street and Garden Street will be shared, including items that are still under review. Finally, we will share opportunities for you to provide your thoughts about the draft concept with the project team, as well as next steps for the project process. There are several key principles that shape all of the work we do in the City of Cambridge, as outlined and implemented through many policies and guiding documents. We design infrastructure for people of all ages and abilities, including those who may not have access to a car. We also focus on moving people and goods rather than individual vehicles. This may mean priority measures for high-capacity vehicles such as buses, as well as accommodation for larger vehicles that carry commercial items. All of these policies work together to help Cambridge lead the way towards a safer and more sustainable future. Separated bike lanes, or bike lanes that are physically separated from vehicular traffic using flex posts or raised curbs, offer several safety and functionality benefits. Separated bike lanes reduce conflicts and crashes between vehicles and cyclists and increase comfort for all users. This allows more people of all ages and abilities to choose cycling as their method of transportation, supporting the city's goals for safety and sustainability. The City Cycling Safety Ordinance identified 4 segments of Mass Ave where installing separated bike lanes would be challenging due to unique, complicating factors. The 4 segments are collectively referred to as MassAve4 and include Segment A, Dudley Street to Beach Street, Segment B, Roseland Street to Waterhouse Street, Segment C, Church Street to Garden Street, and Segment D, Plimpton Street to Dunster Street. This presentation is an update on segments C and D in Harvard Square. The Harvard Square area includes the implementation of separated bicycle lanes on Mass Ave between Harvard Street and Garden Street. There are 4 major MBTA bus stops located on Mass Ave within Harvard Square. In the southbound direction, there is a bus stop at Garden Street. In the northbound direction, there are bus stops at Bow Street, Holyoke Street, and Harvard University's Johnston Gate. At these bus stop locations, bicycle and pedestrian activity require particular design attention to reduce conflicts. The out-of-town news kiosk and Plaza Reconstruction projects are also currently underway. These projects will be carefully coordinated with the MassAve4 Harvard Square project. The historic out-of-town news kiosk reconstruction is a separate city project. A contract was awarded to Reconstruction in April 2021. Due to supply chain issues and unforeseen conditions, the contract end date has been extended 4 months and is expected to be completed by February 2023. In April 2022, the city awarded a contract to Newport Construction for the Plaza reconstruction. Construction is expected to start late fall 2022 and be completed in the summer of 2024. The City Cycling Safety Ordinance requires the implementation of separated bike lanes along the entire Mass Ave corridor. Additional analysis and community engagement was completed for the MassAve4 project to evaluate quick build or construction implementation of separated bike lanes. Full construction was recommended for segments C and D in Harvard Square, and City Council approval was obtained in April 2022. The project limits have been expanded to include the connecting segments, and the project is currently in the conceptual design phase. Let's take a closer look at how this area functions today. MassAve from Plimpton Street to Dunster Street operates as a one-way northbound for vehicles and bicyclists and provides access to Harvard on the north side and businesses along its south side. It includes 2 travel lanes, a parking lane, an area for buses to pull out to access their stops, and an on-street bike lane. The long bus stop in this area serves 3 MBTA bus routes as well as 2 private shuttle routes. The existing space for waiting passengers is limited and conflicts with heavy pedestrian traffic along the street. MassAve from Church Street to Garden Street is the MassAve segment that runs between MBTA's Harvard Square T Station and Cambridge Common. In the northbound direction, it includes 2 travel lanes and 2 on-street bike lanes to connect to both Flagstaff Park and Cambridge Street. There is also an area for buses to pull over to load and unload passengers. The approach to this area is constrained by the existing T entrance located across from Church Street, as shown in the bottom left photo. In the southbound direction, this segment includes 2 travel lanes which merge into 1 travel lane past the Garden Street intersection and an on-street bike lane. Transit access is an important consideration for this project as thousands of bus riders access the Harvard Square area daily, both as their ultimate destinations as well as to connect to the Red Line. The needs of people walking to and from bus stops must be considered when providing separated bicycle lanes through this area. There are 5 bus routes that travel through the project area, resulting in buses coming or going every 2 to 6 minutes during peak hours. This can lead to several buses arriving at a single stop at one time. Buses in this area also need to wait or lay over between the last stop of a trip and the first stop of the next. This time is needed as a buffer so that the next trip can start on schedule. Let's review design considerations for all users of the roadway, as well as infrastructure needs both above and below the ground. It will be important to consider the needs of all modes of travel through the Harvard Square area to ensure a safe and comfortable experience for everyone. This includes people who ride a bike, take transit, walk, and drive. Separated bicycle facilities require vertical separation from motor vehicles and may be at sidewalk level or roadway level. Roadway level bicycle lanes can be separated by materials such as delineator posts, parked vehicles, or concrete barriers. This style of bike lane can help manage interactions between pedestrians and cyclists in constrained or highly trafficked environments. They also allow for existing curb line to be maintained, which can prevent additional utility conflicts. Sidewalk level bike lanes use buffer space or a furnishing zone to create clear separation between driving, walking, and bicycling spaces. This style of bike lane can help connect curbside passenger loading areas across a bike lane, such as at bus stops or cab stands. For either type of separated bicycle facility, a minimum clearance of 7 feet is required between obstructions for the comfort of cyclists as well as to assist with maintenance such as snow removal. When there are walls or fences next to a bike lane, a minimum buffer or shy distance of 2 feet is maintained to minimize conflicts with bicycle handlebars. At periodic pinch points, such as trees, light poles, or hydrants, the shy distance may be closer to 18 inches. At floating bus stops, separate bike lanes run behind separated bus platforms at sidewalk level. Pedestrian crossings across the bike lane are required to allow access to and from the waiting area. Fences or rails may be provided to ensure conflicts between pedestrians and bicyclists are minimized along these stop areas. For bus stop areas, clear zone must be maintained for people to move to and from the bus, as well as a landing area for wheelchair ramps. If shelters are provided, they must be placed in a way to avoid obstructing these clear zones also known as accessible paths of travel. Floating bus stop platforms must be wide enough to maintain the clear zone and landing areas for accessibility, while ensuring the bike lane and sidewalk areas behind them also remain clear. Design of bus stop areas must also consider bus operations to accommodate the number of bus routes and need for layovers to align schedules between trips. Space for buses to maneuver around parked vehicles or other buses is also required. Coordination with the MBTA is underway to ensure all operational needs are met. Bus priority measures may also be implemented to improve bus reliability. This may include transit signal priority and bus queue jumps at intersections, or segments of dedicated bus lanes to allow buses to travel through the corridor efficiently. Accessibility throughout the project area will be addressed, ensuring ADA-compliant curb ramps are provided at all crosswalks, unobstructed paths of travel are maintained, and connections to nearby destinations are clear. The Harvard Square area has a lot of activity at the curb in addition to bus stops, such as deliveries, short-term parking, pickup, drop-off, and outdoor dining. There are also several driveways to Harvard University and surrounding businesses to consider. Traffic analysis is underway to understand how traffic signals could be managed to allow everyone to move through the area safely. Review is also underway to identify areas where plantings, benches, or special sidewalk materials could be used to enhance the public realm. Changes to surface infrastructure must also consider what is underground, such as gas, water, and stormwater pipes. These projects must not compromise existing underground utilities or structures. They provide an opportunity to assess the condition and identify necessary upgrades both above and below ground. Coordination is underway with utility companies to understand what work may be needed before the construction of surface improvements. The MBTA Red Line infrastructure is shallow in this area, and care must be taken to avoid conflicts or impacts. Coordination with the MBTA is underway to obtain information that is needed to advance the engineering design. To help ensure the constructability of the design and minimize delays, an accurate location of existing utilities must be determined. At the start of a project, record drawings are reviewed to understand which utilities are present. To confirm the accuracy of record drawings where conflicts are suspected, test pits are excavated to locate underground utilities that could impact the design. These details will support the design of utility upgrades, including aging water and stormwater pipes. Additionally, Eversource will replace gas infrastructure in advance of this project. Based on all of the existing conditions information and design considerations, we have prepared draft conceptual design plans for your feedback. There are many uses for the street which must be accommodated, and reimagining how the existing public space is allocated can help balance needs for all users. The northern end of the project area, between Church Street and Garden Street, has complex transportation operations and geometry. In the proposed concept, existing spaces for walking and crossing the street will be maintained. Bicycle movements will be separated from vehicles and simplified where possible. Bus riders will have a separate space to wait for the bus. Buses will stop in lane to pick up and drop off passengers. And drivers will have 2 travel lanes northbound and 1 travel lane southbound to travel through the corridor. Towards the southern end of the project, between Plimpton and Dunster Street, the proposed concept will include the following: a pedestrian zone that includes sidewalks for walking and space for street furnishings and landscaping, a bicycle lane separated from vehicle traffic along the north side of the street, a separate area for passengers to wait for the bus, a dedicated area for buses to access their stops. Areas for parking and loading will be maintained where possible. 1 travel lane for general purpose traffic will be available for drivers to use. Let's review the features of the proposed concept in greater detail. The concept creates a separated bike lane southbound from the common by introducing a bus boarding area at Dawes Island. Coordination with the Historic Commission will be required to maintain the island's historical features. Traffic analysis is underway at this location to determine the feasibility of implementing a dedicated bus lane from the Cambridge Street intersection, which would allow for a single right turn lane onto Garden Street. Analysis is also underway if a queue-jump signal can be used to allow buses to merge into the single southbound traffic lane. In the northbound direction, the nose of the existing island will be modified to allow for continuous separated bike lanes next to the area constrained by the red line entrance. The existing bike lane jug handle will be reconstructed to allow for bikes to continue behind the crossing area at Johnston Gate. A separate bus boarding area will be provided with a raised bike lane behind it. Buses will stop in the travel lane at this location. And a new bike crossing will be implemented at the intersection to allow cyclists to connect to the Flagstaff Park Trail. For the area along the Harvard Square Kiosk, the bike lanes will be separated in both directions. A review of pedestrian and bike conflicts, as well as existing utilities in this area, is currently underway to confirm the bike lane design through this area. On the southern end of the project area, between Bow Street and Dunster Street, vehicles will merge into one lane before the Bow Street intersection. The existing right-hand lane will become a dedicated bus lane leading to the Holyoke Street bus stop area. A separate bus stop waiting area will be constructed with a raised bike lane behind it. One travel lane will be maintained for general purpose traffic, and existing parking loading areas will be maintained where possible. Vehicles will transition to the right side past Holyoke Street to continue down Mass Ave, or stay to the left to turn onto Dunster Street. Traffic analysis is underway to determine whether a bus queue jump signal can be implemented at this location. This is an illustration of what the Holyoke Street bus stop area will look like for folks who are traveling northbound. The bus stop platform will include shelters for waiting passengers and will be separated from the bike lane using a rail or fencing. Buffer space will be maintained between the railing and the bike lane for comfort, as well as along the sidewalk side next to vertical obstructions such as light poles. Breaks in the fencing will be provided at pedestrian crossing locations to allow pedestrians to cross over the bike lane to access the platform. The existing sidewalk space will be maintained for those on foot traveling along the street. Now that we have reviewed the draft concept for this area, let's review the next steps in the project process. The project is currently in the conceptual design phase, which will include coordination with other agencies and community engagement to gather input on the draft design. The final design stage will continue until June 2023, where an additional community meeting will be held to share any updates to the design plan. Finally, a construction contractor will be selected to implement the design changes by June 2025 in accordance with the City Cycling Safety Ordinance timeline. We want to hear from you to make sure we didn't miss anything before the design is carried forward to final design. Is there a need for you as an individual or a business owner that has not been addressed by the draft concept? If you have additional questions, please attend the Zoom community meeting on October 12th, 2022. Or feel free to email your thoughts to the project team at MassAve4@cambridgema.gov. Thank you.